Hello, dear friends and colleagues. Sometimes a good interpreter works so well that people that don't quite understand what we do believe it is easy. People do not stop to think about all the preparation and all the skill build-up that is required to sound that way. And a big part of that is studying and researching for a specific assignment. That is the reason why it is crucial for us to receive from our client or from a promoter of an event or an agency or a platform, if you work with them, all materials that are going to be available so that we can study, research, develop glossaries, and be ready for the day of the interpretation. It is difficult to do this when the client is not willing to share these materials with you. Although there are some problems getting materials from international organizations, government agencies, and some other public entities every once in a while, the real problem comes from the private sector. It is more difficult to get what we need it from the private sector, especially when there is somebody in between the client and you, most likely a project manager, an agency, an event organizer. Why is this? Well, in part is because they do not comprehend the need that we have for our preparation. But a big part of it also is because a lot of them have been doing this for a long time. The fact that they do not want to rock the boat. They do not want to make any waves. They want to keep their client happy. And they have figured out that the least they bother their client, the happier the client is going to be and the longer the relationship they will have with them. Of course, this is absolutely false because a mediocre interpretation is an easier way to lose a client than asking for documents and for information that they have ready and available and they will be willing to share with the interpreters. A very common argument on the part of these entities, these intermediary entities, when you request documents, is that they cannot give them to you because their client, the speaker, the organization, the corporation that you are going to go interpret for their event doesn't want to disclose them because they are secret, because they are confidential, because they are intellectual property that is protected. They believe, or at least they want you to believe that they believe, that if they were to share a PowerPoint presentation, a daily agenda, the program of the event, that you would leak this information, that you would betray your code of ethics, your professional reputation, and everything just to do this. And most of the time, in subject matters that to them are extremely important, but in reality, for the rest of the world, they are not so. So, what really matters here is that we need that information and we have somebody in between the client and us that is not willing to play ball, is not willing to go to the client and ask because they don't want to bother the client. This happened to me on one occasion. I usually do not work with agencies, but sometimes I have to because it is the only way to get to a big major event. Well, in this case, it was in the private sector. Again, the agency, through a very seasoned and knowledgeable person that we can call a project manager, gave me that same story. Oh, it's intellectual property. The client doesn't want to share that information. I once again explained that we are privy to more delicate, more serious, or perhaps more crucial information from some other sources than what is going to be discussed at that assignment. And we get all the information and materials that we need. That we have, in many cases, certain clearance with the client or with other clients where this is required. That we do have a non-disclosure agreement, that we have a confidentiality agreement, that we are bound by a code of ethics or several codes of ethics, that we are also, barred from divulging all this information by legislation in many countries. So we have contractual obligations, legal obligations, ethical obligations, professional obligations, and we have a reputation to take care of. We are professionals. We are a trust-based profession. But the client doesn't want to hear that because the agency doesn't want them to know that we need that. And the client might be willing to give this to you, but they never even know that you need it, because it's happened to me in the past that when you raise this issue with them one-on-one at the event, they are surprised because nobody ever asked for that. So in this case that I was telling you, I became very frustrated. The event was getting closer, and I was convinced that I wasn't getting anything from the agency. So I addressed the client directly with my needs. I did explain to the client what I needed and why I needed it. And I explained to the client, look, if I can interpret meetings that are classified, if I can interpret events where the information that is going to be discussed could affect issues of public health, world peace, international trade, and so on, and I've been doing it for many years, and so are the colleagues that I am working with in this event, do you think that we are going to throw that out the window? We're going to get rid of our reputation in order to sell or give away the information that is in your PowerPoints or in your other documents? Of course, the client knew that this was nonsense, and they immediately gave me the documents. And I was convinced at that point that the client would have done that months ahead, or in this particular case, weeks ahead, had they known that we needed them. But nobody wanted to bother them. Nobody wanted to talk to them and ask them for something for the interpreters, because they didn't think that that was important. The important thing is that the client is not bothered. Well, the client would have been much more bothered hadn't we received the documents and the information and prepared for the assignment. So I tell you, you should never give up and always pursue getting all these documents and all this information and everything else that you need to get ready for the assignment, so that you can do the best job that you can possibly do. And if there's somebody on your way, then try to go around that obstacle once that you tried and exhausted any other options, but do not jeopardize, do not risk your professional reputation, the event for that matter. In order to keep an intermediary happy, go directly to the client. So when you don't get the door to open, knock on the other door and it will open. At least that is my opinion. Thank you very much.